that long day behind you. Good times lie ahead. With company worth keeping, that'll bash a smile on your head. Come on in, the door's open, you'll find just the finest folks here. Pull up a chair, grab a drink, and lend our stories your ear. Cause we're the talk, the tavern. Here you're always welcome. The talk, the tavern. Promising beer and bedlam. The talk, the tavern. Music, medicine, then some. The talk, the tavern. The song's over. Here we come.
And welcome to the Tavern. I'm Travis, and let's see, my vices today are terribly limited. I have water in my really cool Batman pint glass, though. It's something. I'm wearing a really nerdy Star Wars shirt that it's got like the Cantina guys on it, and it's like the Cheers type thing going on. No droids allowed, because fuck droids. Really, that's something we have a chance of talking about during this episode, too. But we'll get to that.
Droids?
That's right. And Ed, you opened up your mouth and put something in it. What are you drinking? What's your vices tonight?
I'm drinking a lovely white Merlot from Chester Gap Cellars, and I'm chasing that down because I've drank quite a lot of it. I'm chasing that down with sausage. Breakfast sausage. Not summer sausage. Breakfast sausage. Kevin.
No, I think there's more here to talk about with what you did. No, go ahead, Kevin. I'll stop.
It must be a theme, because just before we started the show, I was telling Ed about some excellent sausage I enjoyed earlier. I am drinking another old moot cider. I'm drinking another old moot cider this evening, but I am now on kiwi and lime. So
I bet you that
me, partly sweet, partly sour.
Yeah, right. Kiwi lime sounds fucking great. Now, is that cider still like an apple base with those flavors added?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah, Old Moot, M-O-U-T is the spelling if you want to look it up online. They're a New Zealand company. They're quite prevalent in the UK and Europe. I'm not sure if they ship to America. And just to match your geekiness, Travis, I am wearing a Lost Boys t-shirt.
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. And Ed, to match our geekness, is not wearing pants. So, there we go.
True.
Something else is hanging. It's not the Lost Boys.
I wonder why he looked so much in shadow tonight.
Yeah, I had to turn down the lights,
He doesn't just jab at his lips. He takes the towel and like wipes his whole face. Because we know what he was doing right before the show. And her name is?
Field research.
Yeah, that's what we're going to go with.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's do an opening toast. Here's to getting some for decades.
Amen, brother.
More decades to come.
Yeah. If it works right. I mean, if it works out right. Anyhow. So, this was an... Okay. Now, we all have kids that are in their 20s or even 30s. Yeah?
Yeah.
40s.
You got kids in their 40s?
Katina.
I thought she was in her 30s. She looks great.
Yeah,
you could tell her that. Anyhow, that's a whole nother topic. Anyhow,
I ain't hating. Go ahead. You can. Yeah.
So
I ain't hating.
we see younger people, and not necessarily our children, though I do try to give my kid who's in his early 20s a heads up about some things, so he has a foot up beyond what his peers do, because a lot of fucking parents won't talk to the kids about sex.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you
and me.
So
let's talk about sex.
What I'm seeing is we have a new generation of young people who are not just experimenting with sex, but they've made it part of their identity. I'm not talking about gender or any of that. I'm talking about the BDSM folks, the folks who are all about butt stuff, Which, by the way, fun fact, Andre and I have started calling when we go to the bathroom. I'm like, I'll be back. I'm going to go do some butt stuff. It's fucking hilarious when people who aren't in on the joke hear it. So, yeah, make sure you do that at work next time you're headed for the bathroom. Just be like,
Get that plug in.
that's not a Glade plug-in. Okay. But you see these young kids who are coming up in the sexual communities. And again, the BDSM community or whatever, and they are acting like they know all these things. What they don't realize is a lot of us tested those waters. Yeah. Been there, done that. We tested those waters.
Test the water. We built the boat.
Yeah. Oh, wait, we were supposed to have a boat? I just went deep diving. I was looking for the clam on the bottom, if you know what I mean.
Oh, you were in that forum. Okay.
I don't even know what I said now. I feel like I might be in trouble.
Was that a smooth clam or?
Well,
Bearded.
depends which decade we're talking about. Those clams started shaving their beards for a while there.
Yeah, after refusing to shave for so many fucking years, that just blows my mind. You want me to shave there? Are you crazy? And then all of a sudden, where's the hair at?
Whatever makes you happy. Yeah, I'm good. I'm just happy to get some.
Same here.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit.
As long as it doesn't smell like it's been out in the sun too long, I'm okay.
Nah, yeah.
I like the
Or
fact you
just
said too long.
Yeah. Well, being out on
just came out of the river. Yeah.
As a teen, I used to dig up freshwater clams out of the canal systems in Florida. So yeah, and yeah, they got left in the sun. That was a smell. Yeah.
Mm.
Right. Let's talk about sex, not this. So, what are you guys thinking about these kids coming up acting like you've never had sex before in your life, or you've only done like straight missionary and never anything else?
Oh, the stories I could tell.
I think a lot of kids
Are
these
we-
days mistake.
I'm sorry. I was stuck on what the story he might tell. What'd you say? Repeat that, Kevin.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of kids these days mistake liberation with innovation.
Mm.
They're a lot more open than our generation were allowed to be when we were their age.
It's true.
I think, and things that were social taboos are now social norms. They're much easier to talk about. And because of that, because they're allowed to talk about this stuff, they never heard us talk about it. There's this kind of false conception that a lot of things they're into are things that haven't been around or weren't around in our generation. And it, like Travis said, though, this crap didn't come out of nowhere, mate. They didn't invent BDSM 3 years ago on TikTok.
It's great when some of the younger folks and they're like, "There's this book about the Marquis de Sade." I'm like, yeah, you realize what century that was written in, right?
That's from.
That's not from the 1900s.
That's a very good point, Kevin, because a lot has come out of the closet, so to say, these days, and we are freer in some ways, shall we say? But back in our day, it wasn't just hiding your sexuality. It was nobody was going to tell you if they were into swinging. Nobody was going to tell you if they were in a polyamorous relationship. Oh, that's our roommate.
I totally believed him every fucking time, too.
Every time.
Yeah, I never even questioned, never even thought to question. I'm like, okay. And then later when they're like,
cute, it's so cute. They've been flatmates for 33 years now.
Nobody keeps a third that long. Somebody has somewhere. But no, and then they'll reveal it later to me, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're so surprised. I'm like, no, actually I'm not. I just never thought about it because it never mattered to me. My rule of thumb is if I'm not included in the sex, I don't really give a damn about.
My rule of thumb is if I'm not included in the sex, I want to be.
Kevin, you want to tell us about your thumb now? Hey, that's pretty talented.
That thumb's got talent.
Yeah, I think we're both turned on. Probably shouldn't be on Twitch if we're going to get this excited about that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let me throw this out there without exposing too much, if you pardon the phrase. I've been involved on and off in the kink and/or fetish scene.
Right.
Describe it however you want for
Sure.
quite a long while.
Yeah.
I belong to a website that shall remain nameless for the purposes of this show, but is essentially a social media platform for people interested in kinks of one kind or another.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of new users of sites like this, and by new I mean people who are newer in their sex life, not people who joined the site yesterday. Younger people who vastly overread their involvement into that community because they seem to think it was something they invented. And a lot of the time I see people being because there's a lot of gatekeeping, a small percentage of it not needed, but a lot of it natural to that community, a community that is by its very nature quite protective of educating and making sure everybody is safe and looked after.
Right.
Yeah.
The obvious example would be teaching people about where and when and what consent is.
Yeah.
Which by and large I don't think the youth necessarily have an issue with. If anything, like Ed mentioned, there are certain things that are talked about a lot more, and so I think they are a lot more aware about that than our generation maybe were. The downside to it comes when you put them out into a wider arena of people of all ages who are into the same kind of things that they are, and they make the mistake of trying to portray themselves as a lot more knowledgeable than they are, and will quite often quite humorously get shot down in flames by people around them going, you have no idea what you're talking about. With no disrespect to you, the technicality of everything you've written is correct, but you do not understand it because you've been doing it 18 months. We've done this for 20 years. I remember the mistakes I made a year in. I remember the mistakes I made 3 or 4 years in. I remember the mistakes I made yesterday.
Right.
I haven't even got far enough in to make these mistakes yet. But you have this false image that your knowledge of it, because you've read about it online, or you read you read 50 Shades of Grey. I know that's such a pastiche stereotype example.
Well, you could even say you watch the BDSM stuff on Pornhub or X Hamster, and that's still not. That's not it. That's
not in any way representative of what's likely to happen if you go to a munch in your local area. No.
Yeah, trust me, they're not going to be 18 and under 100 pounds.
No, not at all.
Kevin, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Did you want to keep going, or
no?
I'll just make commentary.
That was kind of the point I was trying to make at the moment, and I'll throw it open to see if you've got anything to say about it. Is that there's kind of like a false sense of knowledge amongst this younger generation, which is weird. It's almost, we've got this great thing on the one hand, like we've just mentioned, where there is all of this openness now, where it's some have considered an intelligent discourse about these things, and also to not feel shamed or private or in some way dirty or frowned upon for your activities, but with it
entitlement,
confidence that
entitlement. And I'm totally going to walk all over and interrupt you here. Not even to counter you, to build on what you're saying.
You didn't even ask my consent. You didn't even check whether it's being walked.
Don't make me get the ball gag. Just shut up because I said so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh, that's so kind of you. Thank you for supporting me in this. The entitlement younger people and the newer generation has, and they'll have it in the workplace, totally apart from sex. They walk in expecting to get the same amount of respect and say so as somebody who's a 20-year veteran.
Hmm.
We're seeing the same thing where they've watched a few videos, read something here or there, researched it on TikTok. Oh my fucking God, don't get me started on researching on TikTok. And maybe played a little bit with somebody or multiple somebodies. But
So now we know.
they expect their value of information and knowledge and experience to be equivalent to somebody who's done this for decades. And with that type of situation, I always point out, look, you've been doing this 18 months, 2 years, whatever, 3 years. If somebody had been doing it for 3 months and they came to you and said they know better than you do, what would you say to them? And they immediately up in our, nope, nope. I'd tell them to shut up. I'm like, now 10 times your current experience. What would you say to somebody with 3 years experience if you've been doing it for 20 to 30 years? And they're like, well, that's not the same. I'm like, okay.
I think there's a natural shut-off as well that prevents younger people from considering that we might be a bit more intelligent about these things than them. And it's to do with, I suppose it ties into things like pornography, but the portrayal of anything other than vanilla sex, if you like, is that there's this conception that it always involves young, perfect people because that's how it's portrayed to you.
We'd
like
never
you're
get
saying
laid
earlier.
then, would we?
Mm-mm.
No, but
Okay,
this,
I can tell. I can tell them, not you. You already know. Having been in the lifestyle. Mm-mm.
no, not at all. Far from it. In fact, sometimes. But the point is, suppose that I'm trying to make is because they don't associate anybody who's not model potential,
Mhm.
that they might be having this kind of sex behind closed doors and just not telling you about it. That there's a reluctance amongst the younger generation to reach out because there's this. It's not so much like your kids not wanting to imagine their parents having sex. It's just that the younger generation don't necessarily think about the older generation as the kind of people who do that. They expect it to be people of their age.
Right.
Travis brought up something that I think it was pre-show.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. We're on a meme Facebook page together. Well, all three of us are, and my daughter is on that page. And I post stuff sometimes very inappropriate, and damn, she's the first one to respond.
But
I don't know whether to go, yep, that's my daughter, or Jesus, damn girl, don't respond to that shit. Respond to something else.
if my son was on there, I would have tried to have enough conversations with him where we can have those jokes and whatnot.
Oh, absolutely.
So maybe it's because she's a daughter you have that conflict?
It's my daughter.
Right.
It adds to the fun of it all.
It does.
When I'm posting something about women's boobs and wanting to see them, and my daughter pipes in, it's like, nope, those aren't the boobs I was looking for.
Oh no, they've got whole port anyhow. I'm totally not picturing your daughter's boobs right now, sir. I swear to you. But no, I think if you have an education with your children or younger people that you're able to influence, you can open them up. That sounds wrong, but you know what I mean. In a way where they are willing to accept more, learn more, instead of going in almost ignorant and blind. And I got to look back at us 20, 30, whatever years ago when we were first entering these communities that we were in or still are in. And I've always been willing to admit I don't know everything. Even when I was young, I never felt like I knew everything, but I saw other people who had come in and fucking cock of the walk, 27 years old or 24 years old, or the guy that brings in the literally 18-year-old girl or 20-year-old girl, and I'm like, I don't think she knows enough about life to, but they're adults.
But was he bringing in the body?
Yeah.
Or bringing in, yeah,
Yeah, they're bringing in the body and all.
the toy.
Yeah. But my point is, if we have this conversation with a younger generation, related or unrelated by blood or family, it can educate and give them something we never had.
Mm.
Now, one thing I have noticed about these communities, and I'm speaking more specifically about the BDSM community, it's a fucking welcoming community.
Oh, absolutely.
And you definitely have your assholes who are there for ego, and then you have other people who just want a like-minded community where they could talk about what the freaky shit they do, and nobody's clutching their pearls.
Mhm.
Even if it's not their thing. At worst, they're like, hey, I'm going to go have a different conversation. And it's beautiful.
I'd say, I mean, it's a bit of a double-edged sword in the community recently. And by recently, I'm talking about the last decade or so.
Okay.
Going back to what we were saying earlier about the freedom of discussion and how things are a lot more out of the closet, if you like, in terms of what's now available to discuss more openly. That's had both a positive and a negative effect on the community at large. The positive effect is gatekeeping is much better now. These things are out in the light. People talk about them. A lot more people, even if it's not something you personally are into, are aware of things. They're aware of how those things should work, shouldn't work. It's made public play. It's made, big groups, clubs, whatever your thing. Those areas are a lot safer and a lot better run these days than they ever used to be, because these things are now out in the open and not something that's secretive and to be kept in the dark and not talked about in public. The downside to that, ironically, ties into the topic of our show previous to this one, which is about snake oil sales on the internet. There are so many now self-proclaimed experts out there delivering this advice because there is a demand for it now. Whereas before, we do not talk about that. Now it's, yeah, we talk about that. Oh, you want to know about it? I'm going to be the puntee. I will give you all of the wisdom you need on this topic. And a lot of the time, I see so many people who, if you really know about it, and you look at these people, you're like, you haven't got a clue what you're talking about, have you? You read what you know about BDSM off the back of a cereal pack. But now you're out there teaching the younger generation like you're some kind of Obi-Wan of cock juggling,
After doing things for 30 years, for example, I wrote a book on smoking pipes and another book on smoking cigars. Even though I had been doing it for 20, 30 years, I was hesitant about saying I'm any kind of authority, which I am, because I've been doing it and just that much experience. But the same thing with these types of communities. I would be hesitant to say I'm an authority. Well seasoned and experienced, sure. But it doesn't mean I've tried everything, whether that's cigars or sexual kinks and fetishes. And it doesn't mean I'd want to try the full spectrum of everything, because that's why it's a goddamn spectrum. So everybody's got their thing they like best.
Right.
And you don't have to do it all. You don't have to know about it all. But
yeah, you sound go ahead.
No, go on. I'm just going to repeat the opening.
You sound a lot like myself. Okay, when I'm into something, I'm really into it, no matter what her name is. But that doesn't necessarily make me an expert
right.
on it. I can share my knowledge of it,
right.
but I know that's not everything that there is to know. A question I was going to ask, and it's many parts to the question, because are we in another sexual revolution? And there's an oddity there to it, because in many ways we are. However, we have become more don't talk about it than ever in certain situations.
Yeah. Talk about a weird dichotomy. There was a good half decade of being overly free And then that led down to sensitivity, which means you stop talking about it now because we had so much freedom and so many things come out into the open.
But everybody wants to be free.
But now we can't talk about it or ask about it without. And now the pendulum is swinging back the other way, where we're actually knocking some of those freedoms back into the shadows. Because people talked about it too much and we're not going to listen to it anymore. Go away. Go hide.
I think part of that comes from the monetization of sex, which is by no means a new thing. Since man has been advertising products, they've been using sex sells.
Yeah.
The
Age
problem
old.
with that is there are certain areas within the, let's just call it the alternative sex community, for because it's an enormous umbrella. We're not just
Yeah.
BDSM. There's any number of within the alternative sex community. There are certain facets of that community that are saleable and marketable to a wider audience. And again, the terrible analogy, but the sudden explosion in the public availability of being able to buy 793 dinosaur tentacle-shaped dildos off of Amazon in every shape, size, color, you name it.
Oh, by the way,
Things like
I
50
have
Shades of
packed those
Grey.
to ship out.
Oh, I don't doubt.
Oh, I researched those things heavily because they're fucking fascinating. Go on, Kevin. So sorry.
I'm sitting here
Tra-
going, shit. What have I bought from
Tra-
Amazon? Travis
Travis has dealt with more bad dragons than a Dungeons and Dragons DM.
I wouldn't go that far.
No,
I've been doing D&D for 40 years. The sex stuff only 30.
The point I'm trying to make here, that tied into your earlier point, is I think those facets where they are easy to create or market a product that's a little bit exciting, a little bit titillating to a wider general market that's never really done more than dip to toe into those waters.
Mm-hmm.
Those are thrust into the limelight. Those are focused on. Those are marketed now as, no, it's fine. We're sexually liberated now. This is the naughties. You don't have to worry about it. We can talk about this. We can talk about that. I can sell you that. The other stuff, the stuff where you can't market that to somebody because it's such a niche thing, that there's a small group of people who are into this. There's no monetization there. It's not so much that it's pushed into the shadows, it's just outshone by the other stuff they're shining a light on. I think that's what's happened. I don't necessarily think we've gone backwards in becoming less accepting of certain sexual behaviors. It's just that they're overshadowed by the spotlight of sales that's been shone on the bit of that community that can generate revenue.
Travis?
I don't know. I'm debating on how much. Okay, look. I've seen videos where the LGBTQ community has come down on the BDSM community for a good reason. The marches, the pride parades, etc., where they're coming out in full fetish gear and then hugging children watching the parade. And some people are like, that is a line that maybe you shouldn't cross. It's something we're not going to support here. We support you having your fetish, but when we're in a public arena displaying and supporting, maybe that's not the time to be in full fetish gear touching a stranger's child.
I mean, the problem is it's always going to be a contentious issue, especially when you're talking about things related to sex, because no matter how much we might want to claim that we are so much freer and accepting, and these things are now, there's still a lot of stigma involved.
Which, by the way,
also we're talking. Yeah, go
on. Just real quick, and then I'll pass it right back. I think it would make more of an imprint to look like wearing slacks and a button-up shirt or flannel and jeans than full fetish gear, just to show normal people enjoy this too.
Yeah, it's something I do, not who I am.
Right. No, go on with what you're saying, Kevin. I
was just going to say, I think there's a certain amount of stigmatization involved in it, and people aren't as willing to be accepting of it in public when everybody else is watching you as you might be sat around the table when when your friend John suddenly admits to you that he likes to wear assless leather chaps and get beaten. And I think that a lot of we claim the taboos are gone.
Well,
They
John's a
aren't. I think the
freak.
boundaries have just relaxed a bit.
Wait a minute,
How
what's
dare
wrong
you?
with
John and
Atlas
I have
Jack?
been friends for years.
No, that's a
Who do you
goddamn
think you put
compliment. John's a fucking freak. It's not what you said, it's how you say it.
I mean, John's invaluable. How the hell do you think a man my size found assless leather chaps?
Very nice, thank you.
Right?
No, 3
I feel
jokes.
you there. Finding chaps my size? Damn, they're expensive.
That's just leatherware. You've sold leatherware before. You know how expensive it is for quality.
Yeah, I know, but damn.
But if you want a sheet of vinyl that'll tear it the first time you get happy.
I'll draw an analogy that I think makes the point. Let me go back to the example you've just given
Sorry, Ken.
about the LGBT community. No, not at all. If we go back 40, 50 years, you would have heard someone making the same argument about it's not it's okay for you to be gay. It's okay for you to love another man or woman in the privacy of your home. But I don't want you shouting about it on the streets. I don't want you discussing it on the front porch of my church, and I certainly don't want you telling my children about it. Is what you're talking about now not just the modern equivalent of that same prudishness? Because
No.
the gay community, whatever, at large, that's been in the public eye for long enough now that it's become desensitized as a topic.
Yeah, I would argue it's not, because the moment I'm thinking of, like, I'm talking leather harness and no shirt and no pants, but like a leather thong and like a gimp mask marching in the parade. Not like a guy who goes, no, I enjoy this, we're good. You know,
Is it
go ahead.
as society progresses, supposedly, is that the next stage?
Assless chaps?
Yeah.
I think that'd make it interesting presidential race.
It's like the thong. I'm not saying I agree with it one way or the other. That is the question, though. Is that the next stage?
Yes, absolutely. I think maybe not tomorrow, but I think as a society, we're definitely moving in that direction. You're talking now about a society worldwide, no matter where you come from, no matter what the GDP of your country is. We are moving much more towards a sale and marketing based society where everything is potentially for sale. The more we saturate the market with new products, the more those products seem like they've been around forever. You can name any one of 100 products now that people buy regularly on a daily basis that didn't exist 50 years ago, but have now been sold to us as being not only integral but an essential part of our life. As we move forward, I think, yes, you're going to see the same desensitizing of sex. That more and more and more of these different facets of people's personal interests are going to become exposed is the wrong word, but certainly publicized and discussed and put out into the public eye more and more, to the point where people become desensitized enough about them that access to them and information about them will become wholesale.
Ed?
Interesting, because one of the things I've always said is, if you want to normalize sex, remove the money from it. I remember 30 years ago, and it wasn't sex, but 30 years ago, I discovered social nudism. I left social nudism because of the money. It's like, why do I have to pay to be naked?
That's fair.
I was in the lifestyle for a while. I left the lifestyle, not completely. If opportunity presents itself, so be it. But I left the lifestyle because of money. Why do I have to pay to go to these clubs, to meet people, blah, 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 to be in the lifestyle? And I think if the money wasn't there, it would still be participating in all of those things.
I think the same goes, but I think the reason my suggestion's a bit different is, if I'm trying to think of an extreme example, let's take pony play.
Okay.
dressing up as an actual horse, being ridden, pulling a cart with somebody, and and I'm only picking on that because it's one of the more fanciful things.
Can we
That's
point
a
out
bit
butt plug
detached from the.
tails before you finish?
Like when if I
Teresa
have to
has one
point
of
it
those.
out, you're not paying a lot of attention. But my example is that if that is something that is less popular and kind of whispered about behind your hand, it's not openly accepted as being one of the more generic and publicly acceptable forms of alternative sex. That makes it very difficult for me to sell something. But if I normalize that, if I make it something that's talked about, if I deliberately make sure that is brought into the forefront of discussion and people begin to discuss it and it begins to be regarded as more normal. Now, as well as selling you dildos and your leather harnesses or whatever for your BDSM, now I can sell you riding crops. Now I can sell you horse masks. Now I can sell you a $5,000 carriage designed for
Okay.
humans.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that as far as alternative / kinky sex goes, it's almost the other way around. The more you can monetize something, the more likely it is to be openly and freely discussed, because that then generates a market, not just for big corporations. There's a lot of independent indie sellers out there who, because of the nature of the community, have for years been making small, bespoke items specifically designed for a particular taste or a particular kink, because there was nobody out there making this stuff.
What if it
Right.
And
becomes
that now has seen a. I was going to say there's been a much wider sort of spread of those particular independent manufacturers and artists in the last 20 odd years. As the community has begun to open up and be a little bit more public, that's allowed people to be a little more honest and go, well, I might have been a little bit embarrassed to say this before, but now I'll happily advertise myself as making spanking paddles in my spare time. I am Mr. Impact or whatever, your brand name is, but
Did you just advertise somebody?
no.
Somebody's Googling Mr. Impact as they hear this.
If there's someone out there with that name, I'm prepared to not only discuss royalties but possibly materials as payment.
There we go. I had a few things to say here. Let's see if I can remember any of them. First of all, 2 tangents ago when Kevin was speaking at length, I wanted to say this sounds like a conversation somebody had 50 years ago in the 70s, where you're like, the freedom of sex and blah, blah, blah. After the 60s and the sexual revolution and all this, I feel like somebody might have given that same exact stretch of words you did. And here we are 50 years later going, well, maybe this time?
Repeating.
Maybe this time?
Maybe.
And the other thing I wanted to say, when it comes to, for example, pony play, etc., there is a value in the money makers in the sexual or sex arena to make it feel somewhat exclusive. If you make it feel too commonplace, you then get a market flood. So you still have to create supply and demand in this. I think that's off topic.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
It's a delicate slope of where the profit is, going and selling more versus keeping it higher priced because it's exclusive. So, and if it ever does become just mainstream all the way, then you will have every variety out there, and there will be your high end and low end and blah blah blah. But yeah, so I think our message here is we can tell you some shit, and so can a lot of other people our age.
We can show you some shit too.
But yeah, just realize your experience isn't the only experience.
Oh God, no.
Even the folks that have been doing it for decades, the smart ones at least, realize they don't know it all.
Yeah.
No.
So
absolutely.
Don't fucking.
You got to remember, people forget all the time that because it's sex, it's not just a dry generic product you're talking about. It's something that's very personal to people, and therefore there is even within a small subsection of that community, there is such a wide variety of approaches and opinions to it, and also personal interactions with that particular thing. So it's not it's so hard to write a generic rule or a generic piece of advice or create a generic product that satisfies the needs of all of that particular niche of the community.
Yeah. And if it does become commonplace, somebody's going to go, well, I'm going to rebel against it because I'm not common. I'm special.
And if you are a younger person and you're listening to this show at some point in the future and you have signed up for one of the many well-known, slightly fetish-based websites that exist around the world, here's a little bit of advice for you. If you're 23 years old and your age is on your profile and you set your role as master, just know there are 30 or 40-year-old people gathering popcorn and waiting around your comment section.
Indeed.
Something else I say is don't let somebody else tell you what you are. You decide what you like. Try different things. Try top, try bottom.
Unless that's your kink, in which case you shut up and do as you're told.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Try
But
things. That's what I've always said. I'm trisexual. I try anything once, twice if I like it.
well, throughout my history, I've had a lot of people throughout my life tell me what I am or what I should be. And even when I'd be like, no, that's not correct, they would argue with me like they knew better than I did. Well, I know. I've seen your type. I'm like, okay.
I've found a lot
heard
with
that.
people I know well enough or have known long enough to tell about this kind of thing. That it's, it's come up in conversation for one reason or another. When that moment comes, I will spend 30% of my time trying to explain to them what it is I'm into, and 70% of my time dissuading them about all the preconceptions they have about that are not what I'm into at all.
Yeah, don't believe what you saw in that movie.
Yeah.
God,
Because you never saw the
absolutely,
cleanup
yeah.
after or the fucking setup before. Yeah. It's like having anybody over for any party. There's a lot of setup and breakdown.
Oh yeah.
And a
Anyhow.
lot of finger snacks.
Hey. Wait. Anyhow. Okay, closing thoughts on this heated argument we've had.
Like I said before
Excuse-
at the beginning of the show, been there, done that. Nothing new.
Yeah. Excuse the irony of the comment, but just don't get cocky.
Yeah. Talk about it. And not just talk about it, ask about it. Questions are going to
Never
teach
take-
you a lot more than telling somebody else what you think they want you to know.
On a serious note, a genuine piece of advice for anybody who is kind of new to that kind of thing or dabbling their toe or wants to know more about it: never trust one source of information.
No.
It should be common sense, but it can't be oversaid enough about the alternative sex community. Do your research. Never trust one person's voice or one source of information as being accurate.
Yeah. It's not all end all be all from one point of view. There's a lot of personal experience, and as you build your own, you'll find things change. And if they don't, I feel like maybe I don't know. I feel judgy, but it could be ego. You're just in there for one reason, and it's to get your ego stroked. We're not there for egos. We're there for the
my
other
ego,
person.
I want it strong.
That's right. Okay, I'm going to play some closing music here, and there we go. Oh, wait. Oh, hold on. Okay, let's do a closing toast. I scream, you scream, we all scream if you do it right. You had something, Kevin?
Amen. I was going to say, may your options and your legs remain open.
Here we go. During dawn. Ed, you got anything?
No, I just had a image and I'm not going to share it. Let's
Let's do some closing music.
That as well.
Okay, guys. Thanks for joining us and listening to this. And join in the conversation by emailing us at talkthetavernshow@gmail.com. Drop your thoughts, opinions in the comments on Spotify or wherever you pick up our podcast. What else can I tell you? If you have other topics you'd like to hear, let us know. And then go listen to all the old episodes. We're only up to 500 and something. So there's some shit in there somewhere for you. Okay, I'll let the music play out and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.